And it's Friday, you know how we do it. Matters entertainment, but also we take a look at what is happening in the world of news. Thank you so much for always keeping it TV47. It is time for Morning Cafe with me, Linda Alela. I'll be taking you through the day. It's an amazing session, and later on we'll have Nancy joining us for the entertainment segment. We'll also be having some bit of interviews in regards to the same. But before we delve into that, I am here to ensure that you're updated in what is happening in the world of news, where you are right here locally, continentally, and we cross borders to the rest of the world. So welcome on board once again. As I say, it's a pleasure to have you joining us. And I also have Ben Kinuth here, who's a lawyer, who's a motivational speaker, and equally a political analyst, who will be helping me go through the newspapers and the stories that we have prepared as a team. Thank you so much for always keeping it TV47. We'll also be having an interesting conversation this morning as we take a look at we commemorate the victims of torture. Remember, it is International Day for victims of torture, and we'll be getting a guest from IMLU, who's also an advocate, to delve deep into understanding how best we can deal this, how best we can make this a game of the past. Also taking a look at the levels of brutality that has been meted upon our people by the police, especially at this time of COVID-19. More cases being reported, and the cases continue being on the rise as different countries continue to ensure that they put up the measures of dealing with COVID-19, the lockdowns, talking of the curfews, and much more. So indeed, it's going to be a full-packed show for you, but it is going to be as interesting to ensure that we capture you all the way. We would love to get your feedback. Hashtag Morning Cafe at TV47 at Linda_Alela, our Twitter handles. You can also hit us on our Facebook page. That is TV47. We'll be streaming live and also on YouTube, TV47. So karibu sana this beautiful morning. Let's first of all pick the stories that we have from our team. And Sirisia Member of Parliament and his co-accused, Grace Wahungu, have been slapped with a 7-year jail term in prison or a 700 million shillings fine alternative. And of course, the two were found guilty of defrauding the National Cereals and Produce Board of over 300 million shillings. The two were shareholders in a company named Arad Supplies and General Contractors Limited, and pocketed the money despite supplying nothing to Cereals Board. Now the two have 2 weeks to file an appeal. And on that very story, Ben, I hope you're on standby as we take a look at it. The big story on the newspapers across, and we have the People's Daily with me right here, how top lawyers helped loot NCPB, and more details coming on board in regards to this particular loot that saw Sirisia Member of Parliament John Walukhe and the co-accused Grace Saraipe Wahungu, facing it, as I have told you right there. And now the names of Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi, that is the Grand Mullah, and the name of course, a former that is the Deputy CJ, and Nancy Baraza, coming on board also in regards to what their law firms, played, or what role they played towards seeing that indeed this corruption deal happened. And it has been detailed on page 5 of the People's Daily. Walukhe and Wahungu fined nearly 2 billion in fake maize importation, and also captured on the Standard newspaper as the big story. MPs loses his seat and has to pay 1 billion or serve 52 years historic court ruling, captured on page 2 and page 3 of the Standard newspaper. I'll come to you, Ben, to get your take in regards to the same, as many would look at it as a step towards the right direction on dealing with matters corruption right here in the country. What do you make of this whole affair?
Okay, wonderful. A very good morning. Thank you for having me here. I think this is one of Kenya's biggest achievement in the fight against corruption. It's a big achievement in the sense that not only are we able to do a correction of those who have committed the crime, because they need to go into a correctional facility That's a prison, they need to go there. But also we are able to recover the money that was stolen, and to recover it twice. Because the biggest challenge you've had is people steal money, they go to jail for a year or two, they come out, they enjoy the money that they stole. But now the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act has provided for a very good opportunity so that whatever monies are stolen, they are paid back in double. And that's a very good achievement for this country. Yeah.
All right, and now coming in of lawyers or different figures being named on this, of course, the late Jacob Juma, and now these revelations are playing out into the involvement of the likes of, notable lawyers, senior counsels for that matter, who have received payments in regards to ensuring that this is a success. Like the legal aspect of ensuring that these corrupt activities are done in the country. I mean, what does it speak of the legal system? What does it speak of the aspect of justice, and where does it land us in seeking or getting this justice anyway?
I think there's a huge challenge here. It's not only a challenge in the sense that lawyers took money, but also you remember there's a racket that shows there are companies or people who are unnamed. I think these were very powerful people in this country. It's our hope that the DPP will get into the matter even deeper, get to know exactly who are these people we are being told they appear to be unknown, because they are known. These are bank accounts that the banks themselves can be able to reveal to us. But coming to the issue of the lawyers, there's a huge challenge there. Being one of them, one I can say is there's something called the Advocates Remuneration Order, which provides the scale within which advocates are supposed to be remunerated for their work. So what we need to do is to check how much money moved from which lawyer to which lawyer, and you check that vis-a-vis the Advocates Remuneration Order. What were they being paid for? For what services had they offered? Because usually for us lawyers, you hear when you want to charge an amount that you feel is not enough, that's when you refer to the Advocates Remuneration Order. But if you are overcharging the client, you don't refer to the Advocates Remuneration Order. So we need to know, for someone to receive 40 billion, why was 40 billion going into an advocate's account? What was this matter that warranted a lawyer to be paid 40 billion in one transaction? And I think it's incumbent upon the DPP to go deeper and to get us more suspects who we can then turn into convicts like we did in this other case. Yeah. All
right, and indeed the figures or the tree of how the monies were spent or what a firm received what captured here on page 4. Yeah, that is of the People's Daily, as you can see, coming to what indeed Nancy Baraza and Ahmed Nasir's firm got. So Nancy Baraza legal fees was 5 million, and Ahmed Nasir and Abdi Hadir and co-advocates legal fees was 40 million. And just a breakdown of how this money was used, or how this money was spent, and who got it, and what chain it took. So it's all here. You've been given a breakdown, so you can always grab and copy and you check a look at that. But moving on to a different story, also still on the first page or the front page. And we're talking matters COVID-19, and the numbers projected right here. We now stand at 5,384 as a country confirmed cases, and that is 1,857 recoveries and 132 deaths reported so far. 178 people tested positive as of yesterday from samples of 155, 314,000 samples tested across the country. And what President Uhuru Kenyatta says now, captured on page 9 of the People's Daily, is that there's so much that will take him to ensure that he reopens the economy, and he says his decision lies squarely on what the county's capacity on responding to COVID-19 would be like, or the new cases that will have been recorded. What do you make of this? Are you one of the few people who think that it is time that we proceed to have activities go back to normalcy?
Thank you. I think we have a president who shows to care for this nation. There are times we fight him, but on this one we need to commend him. If he reopens the borders and people move to counties like Siaya, where there are 10 hospital beds. By the way, this is a county that has got more MCAs than hospital beds for people who would be sick. Then what it means is that we shall be devolving a big challenge to the counties that they cannot be able to handle. So I think it's only responsible that counties get to that basic minimum of 300 isolation beds, then the economy can be opened up. Yeah.
All right, there you go, and captured on page 9, like I said, and we can only hope to get good results or reports from the levels of county, though straining. But then again, there's been so much money that has been channeled towards seeing that is a success. So the president says his decision lies squarely with counties' capacity and preparedness to respond to new coronavirus infections. There you go, with different, virtual meetings across Africa, different counties, just to see to it that we are able to deal with this. Looking at the genesis of the troubles that we are facing right here economically, the president, that is President Uhuru Kenyatta, imposed countrywide curfew in April. He also ordered closure of entry and exits in 4 regions considered most affected by cases of COVID-19, and Kenyans have since been appealing to the president to relax some of these curfew and cessation directives. President has now said or says that counties must assure him that they can contain spread of COVID-19, and so far 8,000 number of health workers expected to be recruited in the fight against coronavirus pandemic. So we can only hope for the best, like Ben rightfully puts it. And we know moving forward that this is what we're going to do towards ensuring that we deal with this. And to some bit of politics also. And Mudavadi's ANC in limbo over party leadership wars. This is captured on page 9 of the People's Daily. And there's been so much activities on matters politics right here in the country. Now, Registrar of Political Parties Andy Ritu has directed Amani National Congress to respond to petition seeking to have all National Executive Council, that is NEC, members refrain from acting for the party. What do you make of this and the political activities that have played in the country so much? I mean, it looks like we are set for surprises by the time it's 2022.
I think there's a lot of realignment going on, and people have realized that even if COVID is here with us, there will be an election in 2022. And unfortunately, we do not have leaders, because when you have leaders, they think about the next generation. What we have is politicians thinking about the next election. And so when you see the wrangles happening in ANC, is because our parties are not founded on principle, they are founded on personalities. So it's about where does this big personality move to and how does he behave. And we are going to see a lot of realignments moving forward. And that's why I've been telling people, you need to relax and stop thinking so much about politics, because politicians will take you somewhere and leave you. The people who told us that, for example, DP Ruto is corrupt, have left that part and on the other side saying now he's okay. The people who told us that the president is incompetent have left, and now they're on the other side saying that President Uhuru is the best president that there ever was. So when you follow some of these politicians as a Kenyan, you end up having a heartache. Because I remember the other day Moses Kuria was telling Kenyans, oh, Ruto is a very corrupt man. Today Moses Kuria is telling us, no, President Uhuru is the problem. Now, if you had followed Moses Kuria, for example, and gone to the other direction, you'd find it very hard to also follow him in this other direction. So what's happening in ANC is interesting. You might see even Mudavadi himself leave and form another party. I mean, just the other day, this politician, Mwangi Kiunjuri, created a party after he didn't tell us whether he dissolved the other one, GNU, that doesn't even have an MCA. So it's interesting. I mean, our politics is about people, not about, it's not about principle. Yeah. All
right, sadly. And speaking of politics, more on that, Waiguru's anxious moments as a day of reckoning arise. And of course, today we're set to know what way for Waiguru. You've been following up on this, and I've spoken about it for the longest of time right here. And our team also worked on something. So let's take a look at it as we come to you. And Senate will today determine the fate of embattled Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru. So the Senate Select Committee that was probing her impeachment spent the better part of the day preparing the report that will be tabled in Senate today. And as Elizabeth Mutuku now reports, the Senate is also on trial, and its decision on the matter will be a verdict on its image.
The 11-member committee will table its report in the House on Friday. Speaker Kenneth Lusaka, while calling for the special sitting, said the business to be transacted at the sitting shall be consideration of the report of the special committee on the proposed removal from office by impeachment of Governor Anne Waiguru.
Council, through the chair, studying Kirinyaga County Assembly studying orders.
The Malala-led committee can either uphold the allegations against the governor or reverse it. The 11-member committee will determine if the allegations were substantiated or not, and if the allegations were not substantiated, then no action will be taken against her. However, the House may take a vote on the allegations if the allegations are substantiated.
Any transgression on any law is a transgression on the people of Kenya, and it's a transgression on the Republic of Kenya. The members of the County Assembly of Kirinyaga County, 23 out of 33, returned a verdict. There was not even a favorable vote in favor of the governor during the impeachment. Therefore, honorable members, the people of Kirinyaga exercise their sovereignty through the elected representatives under Article 1.
Waiguru is facing charges, among others, violation of procurement laws, amongst other charges, though Waiguru denied all charges.
This has meant taking political decisions, including to support His Excellency the President in his BBI initiative, which I believe is in the interest of Kirinyaga and all Kenya. Honorable Senators, my stand has made me enemies with people of deep influence and deep pockets, inside and outside my county.
The committee has promised to be fair to both sides.
A special sitting that we will be expected to table the report. So I'd like to invite all Kenyans to anticipate a fair ruling on Friday afternoon, and I believe by then we shall have come up with a ruling.
23 out of 33 MCAs in Kirinyaga voted to oust Waiguru. The outcome of the select committee will determine whether the nation will continue having faith on the Senate or not. Elizabeth Mutiku, TV47 Nairobi.
Yes, Ben Kinuthia, what do you make of that? What do you expect?
Interesting. I'm expecting Senate to exonerate Waiguru.
Oh.
And the reason I expect this to happen is because I was looking the other day. The people who told us that Waititu was guilty are the ones who are telling us that Anne Mumbi Waiguru is innocent. And the people who told us that Waititu was innocent are the people who are telling us that Anne Mumbi Waiguru is guilty. It tells you of the fluid nature of our politics. That on the one time you think that these people are standing on principle, but when you look at them, you realize that it's got everything to do with interest and not principle. But having said that, in 2017, when the elections were being held, there was a lot of clamor and noise, people saying that Waiguru has stolen NYS money and so on and so forth. And the people of Kirinyaga said, no, give us our thief, she's our thief. And they voted for her. So I think it's only fair for us to give them a chance to enjoy the next 2.5 years with the governor that they bequeathed upon themselves, knowing very well that she had questionable character because of the NYS scandal. But also having said that, there's the issue of the MCAs who impeached Waiguru. And if you ask me, the bulk of those people cannot recover back their seats if a by-election was held today. They claim to be representatives of the people of Kirinyaga. Yes, they are, because they were voted in by the people of Kirinyaga. But if a by-election was held today in every ward, how many of them would recapture back their seats? It tells you that they are unpopular, and if they are unpopular, then therefore they do not represent the actual interests of the people of Kirinyaga. And I had the opportunity to watch on TV as the drama unfolded when she was being impeached. In my opinion, that did not look like an impeachment. It looked like a drama in a field. It was a lot of chaos, and I don't think that's what our democracy should be. I think moving forward, the impeachment of governors needs to be a sane process. It needs to appear mature. It needs to be seen to be a process that is being done by lawmakers and not hooligans. And finally, having said that, I think also we need to move to a situation whereby the impeachment of a governor is seen to be actually the impeachment of a governor, as opposed to the impeachment of a governor that appears to be having other hands coming from extraneous parts. Yeah.
All right, well, that's interesting. We are waiting to see what will play out. And just also the cartoon edition of the day on People's Daily. I don't know whether you're able to see this. Why is the crocodile dancing reggae? Waiguru trying to run right there, and the crocodile impeachment coming on board. And why is it dancing reggae? I would want to assume that this question is a polite way of, confirming what you just said, that there's a likelihood that they are going to exonerate her. So it's an interesting moment, and we await that. As you have seen, Elizabeth Mutuku will be on ground to ensure that we are well updated on the same. And comments edition also, or maybe editorial edition, describes invading solitaire playing Waiguru privacy. Well, that one, yes, is gone by the winds, but it spoke lots of volumes in regards to how serious, Waiguru was taking this particular case. So we wait for the day. It is today, and we'll be updating you on our subsequent bulletins. And crossing over to another story also right here, still on the same page, that is page 2 of the People's Daily. Surveillance to be enhanced after another Gikomba fire. I think you've seen this, and it is quite unfortunate that again, we have probably sat on a different podium and discussed the Gikomba fires for the longest of time. I mean, what do you make of this?
I think it's a high time the people in Gikomba also woke up, because I don't know what is this obsession with Gikomba as a location. You wake up and realize that the people who come to buy things from Gikomba come from Rongai, Ngong, Kawangware, Kayole, Dandora, Umoja, and all these other places. But there's an obsession with every trader wanting to have a stall in Gikomba. And I think it's a high time we moved forward and decentralized Gikomba completely. The solution to Gikomba fires is not coming up with the cameras they were saying. The solution to Gikomba fires is making sure that someone does not leave Rongai to come and buy clothes in Gikomba. Someone does not. So if we had to decide about the 17 constituencies we have in Nairobi, and we said, let us have one market in every of the 17 constituencies. And that's the same challenge we are having with Marikiti market, that everybody who wants potatoes or tomatoes must come to Marikiti. Why? And these people are living as far off as Githurai. We need to come up with a situation where every constituency is able to have one market of its own, and a clothes market of its own.
And a modern market for that matter.
So that because Gikomba is a prime place, we've been talking of traffic congestion. I wish we turned that land into a bus park, where buses from that direction come to this place. It's a high time we moved forward and started having a more seasoned approach to these things. Because even the people who sell mitumba in Mombasa, some of them come to Gikomba to buy the bales so that they can take back to Mombasa. And we remind you, these things came by ship. Zinatoka kwa meli, they come to Gikomba, and then they find their way back to all these other different places. It's a high time we said, okay, there's too much money flowing in Gikomba, there's too much circulation of people in Gikomba. It's a high time we decentralize the whole market. And
our reporter Eli Logova was there yesterday. Let's take a look at what he gathered. Those are the pictures of what played out. Let's listen into that.
The early Thursday morning fire razed down a section of Gikomba market, leaving owners of business counting losses as they were unable to rescue their properties. The government has now launched investigations to identify individuals believed to be behind the current burning down of property at Gikomba market. The government is also considering relocating Gikomba traders to other markets.
We urge to be cooperative with the security agencies, with our intelligence agencies, so that we can at last bring these guys who caused this to book and face justice.
In the meantime, the government will provide compensation to nearly 400 households who were displaced after their properties were destroyed in Thursday's fire incident.
We will do the final infrastructure around here, a perimeter wall, so that we isolate, and we are promised by the community here that this is a building that is going to absorb in the upward of 10,000 of the people here.
Small business owners who were hard hit by the fire were left staring at their properties as they went up in smoke.
Tutaenda wapi na tutafanya nini? Mimi nimetoka Kisumu nikuje nifanye hiyo biashara. Nimesomeza watoto na hiyo biashara. Watoto wapati kazi na hiyo biashara. Mimi nahangaika, naleta mali yangu kidogo ya kukula, inapotea na moto.
Sasa sisi mbele yote hizo sita zimechomeka zote, mpaka nikabaki tu ya niko nayo kwa mkono. Watoto pia niko nao kwa nyumba, waendi shule. nyumba pia inaishi kwa nyumba wenyewe, inafaa nilipe. Corona pia ndio hiyo.
The tragedy that has hit Gikomba market once again has left these traders counting losses amounting to millions of shillings and now seeking answers from the government as to who is responsible for these perennial fires. Eli Logova, TV47 from Gikomba market in Nairobi.
And to another story right here, the Ruto allies can't register Jubilee Asili as declared by the Registrar of Political Parties, Madam Anne Derito. And this is a story that has been captured on page 5 of the People's Daily and page 7 of the Standard newspaper. And further to this, and without prejudice, upon the registration of the party, the names shall not be in line with Article 91 of the Constitution. The Registrar of Political Parties, Anne Derito, has rejected this request by the legislature's ally to Deputy President William Ruto in regards to registering the Jubilee Asili party. Derito was responding and indeed to this appeal as an over-city business person who reserved the name Jubilee Asili for possible political outfit, that is Mr. James Simiu, and politicians supporting DP Ruto. They had a highly publicized meeting, that is last week, in regards to Jubilee Asili, that got tongues wagging and questions came on board on what this is all about, whether it was a counter for the official Jubilee party and whether it was a polite way of them saying that now they are proceeding to exit the stage and they will take their own direction. And yes, what do you make of the events of the Jubilee Asili and the fact that we still see the Deputy President William Ruto posing with the president as though nothing is wrong and Jubilee is intact?
I don't think the president has a problem in Jubilee, because those who have a problem are the ones who should either leave Jubilee or find a way of dealing with their problems. When you hear people saying that they are creating another party and they are calling it Jubilee Asili Party, and then they are told to be supporters of DP William Ruto, yet DP William Ruto does not come to either openly support or deny the party, I think this is politics of cowardice. If you ask me, we have seen in the past politicians who know what they are doing. And when they decide that we are forming a party, they form it with a lot of courage and they move and they own it up. Now I hear they want to partner with another party that was formed the other day that has got, I think, 5 members. It's called TSP, the Social Party, something, the Service Party. We ain't even to know, but at least we know it's got yellow as one of its colors. So I think these are kicks of a dying horse. These people need to decide whether they're in Jubilee or they're out of Jubilee. But even the registrar refusing to register it was perfect, because even the logo looks the same. It looks similar to the other symbol of the Jubilee Party. So that should not be allowed and it cannot happen.
Okay,
yeah.
And there we are. And speaking of matters politics right here in the country and whether we are good enough or set to go for an election, let's overlook this cartoon edition and take a look at this story. Lest we forget, IEBC requires urgent fixing. This is an editorial fix. And in the countdown to the last general election, one of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission bodies, that the IEBC official, warned on a flawed and disastrous poll if certain measures were not put in place. And later that came to pass after the caution was ignored. So here we are staring at talks of a referendum. So in the event that we go for a referendum, even in the event that we go to 2022 polls with the very same IEBC as it's formed right now, where does it place us? Remember also, it does not meet the quorum or the threshold expected. Okay, well, it could meet that, but then the numbers, the officials are not in the actual number that is expected constitutionally. So where does it place us, even as we overlook this?
I don't think IEBC is the problem, if you ask me.
Yeah.
India, the biggest democracy in the world, has got 3 commissioners that run their independent electoral body. And you know, those elections, when they are held, hundreds of millions of people go to the voters, to the ballot. If you ask me, what Kenya needs is not even a very strong IEBC or even what you call the voting gadgets and everything. What we need, you've been seeing with this COVID, there's a small thermometer that is being used to test people's temperatures and to know whether they are fit enough to walk into a building or not. What Kenya needs is a similar gadget to test the sanity of those people who are queuing to vote. Because surely if people can wake up one morning and queue for so many hours from 4 a.m. to cast their ballot at around 2 p.m. in the afternoon for somebody who they say, this is our thief, and we are happy with our thief, or for somebody who has got serious integrity records and they say that this is the person that we are voting for. So IEBC is not a problem. If tomorrow we go into BBI and we decide that we already have a bad economy and we want to increase the number, for example, of nominated MPs, if that's going to be one of the proposals that will be passed, then it tells you that those people, what they need is not a strong IEBC. What those people need is something to test whether they are normal in the head. Because I think we've been having the wrong people voting throughout.
All right, there you go. And now let's proceed to another story right here also. Muthama Kalonzo clash is just history repeating itself. And here we are. We've seen the problems and the troubles that are ongoing at that level of Wiper Party. And once a teammate, two Ukambani leaders now back separate horses ahead of 2022. And when we're talking about these separate horses, we're talking about President Uhuru Kenyatta and the joining in of Wiper Party, of course, with Jubilee Party, and also that aspect where Muthama now in a way supports the DP, that is Deputy President William Ruto. And in an argument, there was that of course, move by Kalonzo Musyoka or the Wiper Party, declaring that they are going to take Muthama through the disciplinary measures in what is considered to have been going against the party rules. But then again, Muthama says that I dropped you guys long time ago. Then why is it that we are talking about you disciplining me? So here we are. Muthama and Kalonzo fragile allyship, of course, cracked when there was a crack that was witnessed in 2017. I do not know why it is that Wiper or Kalonzo Musyoka was not alive to this fact, to a point of saying that they are going to take Muthama through disciplinary measures. So yes, here we are with this politics.
I think these are, if you ask me, internal party problems, just like we have in Jubilee, like we have in, I think it's happening across all parties. Look at ANC, look at Jubilee, look at now this is Wiper. I think it's only the insignificant parties like the TSP that are not having internal wrangles. So it's normal, it's healthy in any democracy. Let them fight within themselves. You saw what happened in Ford Kenya the other day. Yeah. They were fighting. We are yet to get the results of who won inside the fighting. But once they are done, we'll get to a point where we shall have in this country, and I've always wished that Kenya had not more than 5 political parties that are well funded, because when you have not more than 5 political parties and you have over 47 or 42 tribes in this country, what it would mean is that people would be forced, by virtue of the fact that there are fewer parties, to belong to national parties for that matter. Because when you look at, for example, now Wiper, they struggle to look for officials who would make them look like they have the face of Kenya, because the bulk of their MPs are from one region. Same case with Ford Kenya, same case with ANC. So we need to get to the point where our parties look more national, like ODM and Jubilee, and the only way to do that is to reduce the number of parties so that people are forced to fit into parties that have a national outlook. Yeah.
All right, let's also go back to some bit of matters COVID-19, and there is an interesting story captured right here where they say that ambulances are now reaping big from the pandemic. Of course, this is something that would have been expected. Private entities are capitalizing on the virus and purporting to offer evacuation services at almost 3 times the charges. And the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic has been a blessing in disguise to these ambulance operators, who are now charging almost triple to ferry suspected victims to hospitals. Before the pandemic struck in mid-March this year, private ambulances services were not assured of getting clients on a daily basis. But 3 months later, or 3 months down the line, it is a whole different affair. So while COVID is considered to be trouble for many, there are others who are also reaping big. And is this fair? And should the government be having ways of ensuring that they're able to balance this and curb such occurrences? Because if we're going to get charges at triple the price, it is pretty much unfortunate at this time where Kenyans are grappling with the economy.
It's not just the ambulances. Remember, there was a committee that spent 4 million shillings on airtime. Yeah. We tried to do the calculation. It was coming to about 4,000 shillings per person.
They still dispute that to date.
I think if you were to put 4,000 shillings in my phone as airtime, it would become too heavy to fit in my pocket. But that happened. There were people who alleged that they were able to consume 4,000 shillings on airtime. I don't know what they were calling and where they were calling. I think calls to Corona itself are very expensive. They are charged at premium if you decide to call Corona itself. So that happened, and we saw ambulances being, I mean, there was teas and coffees for another huge amount of millions. If you ask me, this country is made of profiteers. People who are out there to make profit out of every single situation. And thank God that Kenyans are not dying as much, because I'm sure there were Kenyans who are even preparing to start making coffins and selling, because people are looking at the deaths in Brazil and thinking if those deaths were here, they would have a whole complete coffin factory where they would just make coffins and make money out of it. So Corona for many people is not a pandemic that they wish would end without them making a coin out of it, and that's the most unfortunate situation.
Pretty much unfortunate indeed, and no regulations to ensure that we curb that. Let's come to this story. Of course, it's COVID-19. Still, the DP, that is Deputy President William Ruto, urges Kenyans to observe government COVID-19 guidelines, and he's now out here speaking. I mean, for a while he had been silent, but officially we've seen him coming out, trying to sensitize Kenyans and also meeting religious leaders in regards to the same, and also having talks on how best we can be able to reopen. Away from that, there's been so much drama on matters budgets across the country, especially this one in Nairobi County, and we witnessed differences yesterday that marred the tabling of Nairobi city budget. The Nairobi County budget was not tabled in the County Assembly yesterday following sharp differences between the MCAs allied to Nairobi Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko and those allied to Speaker Beatrice Elachi. Our team also worked on that particular story. Now let's take a look at what played out in regards to the same, and we come back react to the same.
The squabbles outside Nairobi County Assembly Thursday morning. Daggers drawn. At least not for the first time, chaos are being witnessed in this assembly, and of course, notable MCAs running the show. Thursday's dispute was anchored on the Nairobi County budgetary allocation for the year 2020-2021. House Speaker Beatrice Elachi and about 40 MCAs were forced to spend part of their night at the assembly after receiving information that goons had been hired to bar them from accessing the chambers when the budget was expected to be read.
Abdi Hassan Guyo, together with Paul Kados and some people that they were calling Jubilee bigwigs, I do not know them, had a meeting last night at Kasolin, and they said that they have to come here at 4 in the morning. So we came, and our mandate here and our job here is just to protect that budget making process.
Some leaders, including Abdi Guyo, were arrested and taken to Central Police Station for being behind the chaos. MCAs who are opposing the 26.4 billion shillings allocation to the Nairobi Metropolitan Services were locked out.
Wale wengi ni wale tu hawajakuja kwa sababu wataki maneno ya vita. Sisi tumejitolea kwa sababu tunajua kuna serikali.
A faction of the MCAs want the budget to the NMS slashed and were determined to stop the budget reading that eventually did not take place. The speaker was locked inside the assembly while some MCAs were demanding entry.
The money that is allocated for them to change Nairobi, we are all working for the benefits of Nairobians. So we cannot keep fighting and make Nairobi a battlefield where we are fighting over taxpayers' money. It is quite unfortunate and impossible.
Ile ilipitishwa na treasury, after kusikizana na treasury na president na sisi county, hiyo ndio budget itapita. Ile president anataka ambayo amepiga hesabu na akaona itasaidia NMS ifanye kazi. Hakuna kitu kingine kitafanyika hapa.
The dispute between the county government and the NMS continues to exacerbate. 6 days ago, the High Court dealt a blow to the deed of transfer of functions from the county to the national government. The court ruled that the deal was unlawful and gave the national government 90 days to rectify the illegality.
As you can see, I've been denied entry, and with no prior communication, I don't know what is happening. I'm just being told that the people who are inside are enough.
Tumekuwa hapa na tutakaa hapa mpaka tupitishe ile kitu rais ambayo alisema tupitishe, and that is what we are fighting for.
The Labour Court has also suspended a Gazette notice by the NMS boss Major General Mohammed Badi that appointed new members to the Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company Board. Mwangi Maina, TV47, Nairobi.
I mean, Nairobi has been treated to so much drama so far. Ben?
I think there was a time when Raila Amolo Odinga said that we need to raise the bar in terms of the caliber of MCAs that are elected. And some people thought that he's being elitist and he's trying to make sure that people do not vote for people who are not connected to the ground. But I agree with him. I agree with him totally. The biggest challenge we are having with these MCAs here is that right now, instead of being MCAs, they are behaving like goons for hire. We all want a good Nairobi. And when you see people lining up and having a problem with 26 whatever billion being allocated towards the development of the city, then you realize that those people are not progressive. They are just playing goon politics. They are being used the same way you would hire goons from the streets to come and do unfortunate work. We know that for the longest time, the Honorable Mike Sonko Mbuvi alikuwa ameshindwa na Nairobi. We have seen what he has done. We have seen what he has not done. NMS came in. It's been barely 3-4 months, and we can see a difference in our city. So as Nairobians, we don't really care who is running the show as long as we get services for the taxes that we are paying. And it's unfortunate that we would have such kind of people being said to be the leaders who are MCAs. And let me make it clear, because people still keep thinking that when an education minimum level is set, it's just making the city elitist. I have a son who is in class 7, and every time we do maths with him, I know the maths doesn't go beyond 5, 6, 7 billion. Okay, it doesn't go beyond. It doesn't go beyond 500,000-600,000. At most, my son does not calculate for more than 10 million shillings. Now, for a goon or for someone who dropped at class 3, sitting to audit 26 billion, they can't even understand how you would have 9 zeros following another figure, because they never sat. I mean, at Form 4, we never did any maths that went beyond 5-6 billion at Form 4. So for anybody who dropped out at Form 4, who left at Form 4, sitting also at the county assembly to audit 26 billion, a figure that they are seeing for the first time. They have never seen such figure written anywhere else. It is a huge problem.
Is it not the very same reason why they said it's okay, Sonko could not be the best person, but we can get somebody else in Polycarp Igathe or any other person who will deputize him, you know, who has vast knowledge and such.
Yes. Igathe understands what it means to have 9 zeros following. Because if you ask people what is a billion, they'll not understand that a billion is 1,000 millions. And the minute you start breaking it down that way for people who got to class 3, class 4, it becomes a problem. And that's why they are shaking gates and saying mimi ni MCA. But you ask him MCA wa nini, what does it mean? What does oversight mean? They say tumekuja kupitisha budget. You ask them budget ni ya pesa ngapi? They tell you 26 billion. You ask them what does a billion look like? They don't understand what a billion looks like, because they've never sat in a class where they did any maths that was worth more than 5 million shillings. And this is the challenge that we have in Nairobi.
Speaking of oversight, at Ongeri, Sam Ongeri has been elected the chairman of the Senate Accounts Committee. We know very well that also Senate is what is put there to ensure that they oversight the activities at the level of the counties. And now Kisii Senator finally assumes role in Oversight House panel, ending 2 months of confusion following rejection of Olekina by ODM or his ODM party. So here we are. He got in and opposed. High Court halted the removal of Narok Senator Ledama Olekina from the committee, but later withdrew the case after mending fences with the ODM boss Raila Odinga. Marsabit Senator Hagura Gudana replaced Kiambu's Kimani Wamatangi in the new lineup that will serve for the remainder of the 12th Parliament's term. As you touch on this, I will also want you to touch on the the purge that has been going on within the Jubilee Party, also captured on the front page of the Standard newspaper, where they're talking about Uhuru kicks out more Ruto allies. To you.
The appointment of Senator Ongeri is both beautiful and ugly at the same time.
Okay.
Beautiful in the sense that he has a lot of experience, but ugly because we have young people who are equally qualified to hold that position. The nature of leadership is that it's fluid and transitional. That we need to be letting a younger generation take over these positions and to provide leadership. I think if I was Ongeri, I would have insisted on there being appointed a younger person, and then him comes and gives stewardship and maybe some kind of advice. It is in bad faith to have such a powerful Senate committee being headed by an old man his age, because then it does not create a position for younger people to learn the ropes and move and change things. Now, on the cleaning up of the Jubilee House, I don't think it's a problem. I mean, we do it in our own lives personally. In fact, I was joking the other day on my Facebook wall and saying, I have seen people who have had 3 different partners, in 5 years, wondering why politicians cannot stick together for 10 years. I mean, you've had 3 lovers in 5 years yourself as a Kenyan, or even more. And then you're wondering why politicians who have not even sired children together cannot stick together for 10 years. I think that's the nature of life. It keeps on moving, it keeps on changing. And if anybody today can say that in the last 5 years, I can name 3 X's, I think it's also fair to allow Jubilee to also create some X's here and there, and to be able to disagree here and there, because Jubilee has not sired children with anyone, and they've not lived in a house together with anyone. Yet we who are living with other people are unable to live with them. I mean, we've had people right now who have separated from their wives, having a problem with the president not getting along with the DP. I mean, if in our own personal lives we are not able to get along with people who are very close. I mean, some of us even have differences with our own brothers and sisters who are biologically ours, So why would the president, why would it be a problem if Jubilee has a problem within itself?
So how much is this of impact to the interest of the DP looking at 2022 and generally politically, and also his functioning now that he's working with the president within the government, and what is left of the people who are squarely waiting to get development, to fill that need of course, what would have informed them to proceed and elect Jubilee as a ruling party?
I think even the people who were kicked out of these committees wasted a lot of public resources and time. Because I remember when they were appointed at State House. In fact, there was no PG. They were just appointed at State House, and it was rubber stamped, and they were very excited. When it comes to the same party that appointed them, removing them, they are trying to fight the process of being removed. And I must congratulate Aden Duale, because when you look at the demeanor of Kipchumba Murkomen when he was kicked out, and contrast that with Aden Duale comes and says, it is well, I'm going to be a backbencher, this seat belongs to Kenyans. He's a person who understands his position in life, that this seat was actually a favor. Because when you think about the National Assembly, for example, there were so many other members of parliament who got in excess of 80, 90, 100,000 votes. Aden Duale in his Garissa did not get more than 30,000 votes, yet he's the leader of majority in that parliament. So he knows it's a privilege, he knows it's an honor, and he knows there are so many other deserving Kenyans who are supposed to occupy those seats.
But now substituting Aden Duale with Kimunya, I mean, something that people have faulted so much so, is like you're saying, out with the good and in with the bad. What do you make of that?
Is there a clean Kenyan politician? I do not support the appointment of Amos Kimunya, but at the same time, whether I support or not, they will do it anyway. They have always done what we do not want. But I have tried to think of that August House. I have tried to think of that Senate. I have tried to look for a leader I can say this is a man of integrity. And the few I thought were men of integrity stood before us live on TV cameras and told us Waititu is innocent. And others have stood and looked at us in the eyes and told us that Waiguru is innocent. And when you look at those people, then you ask yourself, which Kenyan is clean? Even the MCAs who are impeaching these governors, they are so hated by their own constituents, and they know they are not coming back, and they know they cannot be re-elected. So it is extremely difficult for us to say that we support this and this politician because none of them has shown us that they move on principle. Yep.
All right, there you go. And not before we wind up on this, because now that we've talked about Amos Kimunya, yes, and we also do not fail to remember his days when he was holding the docket of finance. And here we are, we're talking about the budget captured on page 6 of the People's Daily. And Treasury caught up in dicey financial situation as experts poke holes in the term, or in the move that, of course, terming it as an ambush aimed at twisting the parliament. So the National Treasury has been thrown into a state of confusion in push to have the supplementary budget 3 passed by the National Assembly. And yesterday evening, that is during an extended session for members to debate the budget. And here we are. I think you watch the proceedings, and there's a lot of confusion on the formation of the budget and also the timelines that we have and how genuine they are, and also the figures that are being projected.
I think for as long as you have people who are interested in a budget, making a vote on the same budget, there's a huge conflict of interest. We've had for years MPs, this is the time when they sneak in whatever allowances they want. And this is the time when they tell Treasury, now we've sneaked in this allowance. If you want us to pass this has to pass. And that's the hugest challenge. I think if only we had leaders who meant well for this nation, so that they would vote for the budget or fail to vote for it on the merits or demerits thereof, it would have been an excellent thing. But right now, the budget is voted for or voted against, depending on what interest it's serving to protect or to propel for other people. Yeah.
All right. As we get to wind up, we do not go without discussing the BBI politics that are still rife right here in the country. And now experts, well, this is something that they've argued even from before, or political elites sort of feel like we do not need to proceed and change the constitution, while others clamor for it. We still have the current constitution that has not been well executed. And even worse is that the country is grappling with matters finances from elections, that were from 2 elections, like on almost the same period after the annulment or after the nullification of President Uhuru Kenyatta's win in 2017, and now proceeding to the dealings that we have right now as we try to grapple with COVID-19 and the fact that we are now talking about a referendum at a time that we are nigh for the 2022 elections. What would you make of this? Yet President Uhuru Kenyatta says that there is need for some changes, especially on what we have right now that does not serve the interests of the common mwananchi.
The only interest of the common mwananchi that we think should be captured in BBI is a reduction in the number of elected leaders that we have. We have such a huge burden that we are carrying. If it was a referendum to reduce the burden on mwananchi, then that would have been a good thing. But I think the only referendum that Kenya truly deserves is one referendum that will come and declare all the persons who are in political offices today unfit to hold public office, and we look for another fresh crop of leadership. I think that's the only referendum we need. Any other referendum that does not remove from us the leaders that we have today is not a good referendum. Yeah.
And the ills of the society, as we speak, the social ills that are happening right now as we're dealing with COVID-19. There's also one story here on violence against women, which Aidan, that is the Bungoma County Commissioner, Dr. Aidan Mohammed, sort of feels like should be criminalized. And we've had these talks, and today also is International Day for the Victims of Torture. We'll also be delving into that discussion. We'll want you to weigh in on such occurrences, social injustices that are happening right now as we are dealing with COVID-19. And the cases also that have been projected on pregnancies of teenage girls, most of them having been considered to have been raped anyway, and they do not have the confidence to come out and speak about this.
Wonderful. I think our education system has a problem from the beginning. It has not prepared the boy child for the challenges that are coming. And many of the men today are finding themselves in very awkward predicaments that they should never have found themselves in the first place. And it's because of their inability to deal with the predicaments that are coming today that you are seeing the things that are happening. We've seen sad stories of fathers raping their own daughters. This is unbelievable. It's unheard of. It should never be condoned. But at the same time, I think we need to get to the point where we interrogate how we are raising the children that we are raising, because that's where the problem is.
All right, thank you so much, Ben Kinuthia, lawyer and political analyst, for the great insights of the day. That was newspaper review alongside taking a look at the news stories of the day. It's now time that we cross over to a different segment altogether. We have some feedback right here, but I think I need to tell you this. And Kinywa Sami says, great words. All we have is politicians and all we have is a politician, and many people don't see that they follow their interests. Thus, why they keep changing their mind and lying to Mwananchi. Hezbon Onganga says that you should know that GNU has several MCAs and governors up to 2016. Well, they folded for... Okay, I think this is that GNU has several MCAs and governors up to 2016, and then folded from Jubilee, or to form, they folded together to form Jubilee. And I don't know what exactly he meant, but I think it was in regards to the Waiguru case that we were talking about. And Peter Miner is tuning in from Kahunguini. Thank you so much for watching. Steve Ngene and many more of you who've dropped in your feedback. And we cross over to a different segment altogether. Thank you so much for keeping me company. After this break, Morning Cafe is back with much more.